What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Obsessed Auto Review. My name is Gary and this is the place to be if you love vehicles. Today we're looking at this 2020 Honda Ridgeline. The Ridgeline first came out in 2006. It went through production for 8 years. The people that owned the first gen of this truck absolutely loved it. They still have it till today, at least the owners that I've met. Honda stopped making this in 2014, took a 3-year break, and started making it again in 2017 when they came out with this all-new second generation. Yes, this is sitting on the Pilot platform. Yes, the front end looks just like a Pilot. Yes, the interior looks just like a Pilot. But with the mid-size pickup truck segment heating up with the Tacoma, the new Frontier that's going to be coming, the GM twins, the Canyon, the Colorado, and the Ford Ranger, does the Honda Ridgeline still compete with those big boys? Let's take a look. Enjoy the review. And before we get going, I wanted to say a big thank you to Honda West for letting us borrow this vehicle. If you're interested in this Ridgeline or anything on their website, link is in the description below. Once again, it's Honda West. Now, starting off the front end, one thing I've never liked since this second generation came out in general with the Ridgeline was how much it looks just like the Pilot. Really similar. It looks like the front end was just changed a little bit, the lower fascia and the grille, and they call that the Ridgeline. I am not too excited about that. I wish Honda did something more to differentiate it. It is what it is, and we'll see what we get for the third generation when they come out with it. Now, the headlights themselves, you have this very significant, really lengthy looking daytime running light LED. You had halogen projectors, halogen high beams. Your fog lights, standard on all trim levels, at least here in Canada, were down here, and your incandescent turn signal was right down here. You had this very rugged, texturized material. It's a flat black, which is good. It can take a beating, but the way it comes down, it's really boxy. Maybe they could have done something a little bit different, but maybe with the refresh we'll see some changes coming up. Moving up to the top, the hood reminds me just of a Honda Pilot. It looks just like one. You can probably replace these with Honda Pilot hoods. So taking a look at these wheels, all Honda Ridgelines came with these 245 18-inch rims. Of course, upper trims had different styled rims. I'm not the biggest fan of these ones, and you know, to be honest, they look a little small for the truck when you go back a little bit. That's just my opinion. The rotors, they're vented themselves. This thing, the Ridgeline itself, had about 6.8 inches of ground clearance, which is definitely on the low end compared to its competitors. I'll show you guys a chart later. But the front had McPherson struts, and the rear had multi-link independent suspension as well. So no solid axles here. The first generation didn't have that either. Great comfortable ride. Moving on towards the side, your side mirrors, body colored, nice little LED strip for your turn signals. Now once again, if you stand right here and just look at the front half, this will probably look just like a Honda Pilot until you look at this portion. Now the first generation had that very classic slant to the bed. The second generation, sorry, definitely doesn't have that. They went completely flat, more traditional, that's for sure. And you'll notice this little thing right here. This is just for show, really. The Honda Ridgeline is still a unibody truck. It is not a body on frame like the others. So it tries to mimic that look, but we know what they're hiding. Moving on towards the back, let's take a look at this tailgate and see what we got. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're on the back portion of this Ridgeline. I think this looks much better than the first generation. Really traditional truck look. Starting off with your tail lights, you had combination tail lights. So you had LED strip right here, LED brake lights, incandescent turn signals, and halogen reverse. Before, the first generation had the Honda logo spelled out right over here. This one shows off the Honda logo right in the middle, Ridgeline writing. Now the very cool thing about this truck, even back in its first generation, it had a multi-function tailgate, or I'll say dual action tailgate. That's what Honda calls it. You could open it like this. You do not have to open it like the traditional truck that we all see, even though nowadays trucks are definitely getting more creative with the way they open. This drops down the normal traditional way, and you can also open it just like that. Pretty fancy. Nice spray lined bed. This came factory from Honda. Now, while we're talking about the bed, actually, let's open this up. This one had an in-bed truck storage. They had it back in its first generation, and it continues to have that trend. This had a little over 7 cubic feet underneath here alone, and you can lock it up too. You'll see a little lock portion right here. That's really cool. They have a little plug-in in there, and you could dump a bunch of ice, put your beers in there, and no one will ever know. You can hide from the cops if you want. Don't do that though. I don't condone it, at least. Now you had your tow hooks along the side, 2 in each corner, a couple of lights to help you see at night. Now the bed itself, it is a short cab, or a short box, sorry. You couldn't configure the Ridgeline at any way, shape, or form. That's just the way you get a Ridgeline, and Honda didn't want to change that. Talking about the bed, let's go through some numbers. Now the Ridgeline itself, in its bed storage, it had just a little over 33 cubic feet of storage, which is definitely impressive. It can carry up to 1,500 pounds just in the bed, the max payload, and it could tow up to 5,000 pounds. Once again, those are definitely on the lower end of the spectrum compared to its competitors. While we're talking about the competitors though, let's take a look at these charts that I mentioned before. Starting off with the max towing capability, you'll see the chart that I have posted above. The Ford Ranger and the Chevy Colorado just run circles around the Honda Ridgeline when it comes to max towing. Those small trucks can do 7,500 and 7,700 pounds of towing. The Tacoma can do 6,400. Let's talk about max payload. I think the Ridgeline is a little bit more competitive in that segment. It can carry up to 1,521 pounds. Tacoma 1,440, the Ford Ranger an astounding 1,860, and the Chevy Colorado 1,578. Now, in terms of ground clearance, if you get this truck, you might go off-roading a little bit, not as much as a full-size truck would. This thing only had, once again, as I mentioned before, 7.8 inches of ground clearance. The Tacoma had an astounding 9.4 inch ground clearance, and the Ford Ranger 8.9, and the Chevy Colorado 8.3 inches. Now, I don't know what world we're living in here, but if you're gonna look to do a lot of off-roading and you're looking at the Ridgeline, sure, go ahead and take a look at it, but one of the competitors might be more suitable for you if that's what your intended use is, which is, you know, towing a lot more, having a lot more in the bed, and you know, stuff like that. So anyways, now that we're done with the bed here, let's move on to the interior and see what this Ridgeline brings. You recording? Let's step into the Honda Ridgeline interior and see what we got. Okay. Now, if you've been in a lot of Honda products, especially something like a Honda Pilot, this interior is going to look exactly the same, because it basically is. Let's start off with the door panel itself. You have soft touch material up top, silver trim, your door handles, authentic stitching along the center armrest, padded, not too hard, not too soft, just right. Plenty of storage. You can fit water bottles, snacks, anything you want down here for days. Moving on to the center portion of the dash here, or the right side portion actually. You have fake stitching up top, so it's not authentic. I'll show you guys a close-up of that. That's silver trim. I'm glad it's not gloss black. I've seen that on a lot of other models, and I'm happy it's not the way like this. I hate that. Other than that, your glove box itself, not damped or lined with felt, pretty basic. Let's move on to the center stack here. Now this itself is fairly simple. A pretty small 7-inch screen. The Honda link system itself is fairly basic. But before we start that up, let's move on to the lower portion here. You have your engine start-stop button right beside your HVAC controls. HVAC controls, you know, I gotta say it, hashtag save the knobs. This one has your up and down selectors for your temperature gauges. I'm not the biggest fan. I like just turning dials and having my air blast at my face real quick. Don't take it the wrong way. You have your typical controls here. You have your heated seats, which were standard on all Honda Ridgeline models. If you want ventilated seats, you can see that this leather, it's perforated. It's capable of it, but you got to get the touring level and up. I believe in the States they call it the Elite. That's the trim level name. That's equivalent to the Tourings over here. Now moving on to the lower portion, you have an area to put your cell phone, your wallet. Over here, typically in the higher trims, you can have a wireless charger available too. You have a 12 volt, excuse me, you have your 1.5 amp USB. That's where you hook up your Apple CarPlay and Android Auto that is standard on this head this head unit. Moving on to the lower portion. Now, if you had the base trim, which is a Sport, you would have a shift lever, but this one has the Honda buttons selector for the transmission drives. You have more of that silver material around the cup holders as well. Once again, I'm happy it is not gloss black because that would leave fingerprints anywhere and dust. This one you can keep on touching over and you won't see anything. The center portion, lots of space. Slide it up and you have a 12 volt, you have an auxiliary, and you have plenty of space in here. You can probably fit in an iPad easily, a whole roll of them. Other than that, these seats themselves, they're fairly comfy. Now the passenger side came with a 4-way power adjustable and the driver's side was 12-way. This is standard, the driver's side, but the passenger side you have to be EXL or higher to get this. The seats themselves, super comfortable. The bolstering doesn't come out too much. It's not meant to be a sporty ride, but I think it's fairly comfy. You have authentic stitching along the seats on the bottom and the sides. That perforated center portion, once again, cooled seats are available on higher trims. How about we start up this head unit here and the vehicle itself. Take a look. So the vehicle started up now. Let's take a look at this unit really quick. It's not the fastest. It's the previous generation of Honda Link. Once again, why aren't they putting the current Honda Link system in here? The new Accord has it, the new Odyssey has it, the new Passports have it. I wish they put it in the 2020 Ridgeline as well. This thing itself is okay, not the smoothest, but it is what it is. Once again, standard Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. You had your backup camera with three different areas actually, where you can change the vision of what angles you look at. Moving on to that center gauge cluster, before we talk about the steering wheel, you had a fairly traditional and mixed gauge cluster. You have your traditional tachometer on the side. You have a little helper screen on the bottom and a separate screen up top that tells you your speedometer. You know, this actually doesn't even have a speedometer. It just tells you your speed digitally. You have your coolant temperature gauge, your fuel gauge, and in the center you have a plethora of options. You can look at things like your average fuel economy. That's about it really. Your maintenance life, your tire pressures, and that's really about it. Now moving on to the steering wheel. Fairly decent steering wheel, thick rimmed, genuine leather around here, and genuine stitching all along as well. You have your simple buttons here that pretty much have your cruise control, your safety systems like lane keep, which were standard as well, the Honda suite of safety systems, your media controls, your Bluetooth, okay looking airbag cover in the center here. To the left of the steering wheel you would have your mirror controls. One thing I'm kind of disappointed in is the switch gear for the windows and such. Honda has a new generation of those that they use on things like the Odyssey, for example. They haven't switched them over on the Pilots or the Ridgelines. I wish they do that. Other than that, let's move on to the back row and see how comfy we'll be. Let's get in the back seat. Slam my knee coming in, ouch. Now, you know I gotta say it, I'm 6'1". I left the seat where I would be comfortable sitting in for a long duration. Not gonna lie, this seems much higher and a little bit more cramped than up front back over here. Now, knee room wise, I have maybe a couple inches. I can shake my knees around. My feet don't have to be underneath the seat. Headroom wise, I'm sitting normally right now. I have about a couple, 2 to 3 inches up top, which is awesome. Moving on to what I'm looking at. Fairly decent view. A lot of light coming in, decent space. Same leather seats go all the way around to the back, same stitching as well. You have a couple of your own vents here that bring out that AC. You can, actually this is a tri-zone climate control automatic as well, so you can choose what you want. I can have warm air here, my front passengers can have cold air if they want to. You have individual 3-stage heated seats for both side passengers, nothing for the middle passengers, sorry, crapped out. Other than that, you have a little storage cubby. I'm not seeing any connectivity back here, no USB ports or any charger ports or anything like that, so that's something to think about if you're gonna have your kids maybe in the back, whatever you're looking at. Moving down to the seats here, center console. If you're not gonna have anybody sitting here, drop this down. You have a couple of cup holders, a little tray for whatever you're really gonna keep in there, some snacks. Your door panels itself, you have another cup holder here, another storage cubby for your phone, it looks like. Genuine leather stitching along the back rear doors as well. And decent size opening for the window. Now, not a whole lot to talk about. Could I relax in this truck for a 2-3 hour road trip? I think I could. I have plenty around to move into. I can open up this back window from the front, and that way have some air coming in as well. How about we take a look? How about we take a look underneath the hood and see how that compares to its competitors and what this Ridgeline brings. All right, everybody, let's open up the hood and see what this Honda Ridgeline packs. Underneath the hood, you have the same 3.5 liter V6 that makes 280 horsepower, 262 foot-pound of torque. Pound-feet of torque, my apologies. That engine is the same one that's in the Odyssey, the Passport, the Pilot, and the Ridgeline as well. I wish, once again, they had a different drivetrain, but I also like to say that engine is fairly smooth. It's a great, reliable engine. It's been around for a long time, and it's been proven. This one just updated with Honda's Earth Dreams IV-Tech technology. Now, this one is mated to a 9-speed automatic transmission. Not this one, but pretty much all of them in general. All Ridgelines came with that. This one just being a little over 4,400 pounds, it drives fairly smooth. It picks up fairly quick as well. Now, for gas mileage, this one does 12.6 liters per 100 kilometers in the city and 10 liters per 100 kilometers on the highway. Definitely decent numbers, but if you're looking for the most fuel efficient truck, there's definitely some others out there. Now, while we're talking about this and talking about the competitors, how about we take a quick look at that chart and see what the competitors are bringing in. So talking about the competitors, let's take a look at this chart. Most of them have a 3.5 liter or 3.6 liter V6. The only competitor out of my list right now that doesn't have that is a Ford Ranger. They pack in that 2.3 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, which in my opinion, if you're gonna get that and you're also gonna tow all that weight, and how, even though it's fast, I'm not sure how reliable that'll be in the long run. Only time will tell, since they just came back in North America here. I would personally get a V6, but that's just me. Horsepower wise, I think the Honda Ridgeline's V6 is pretty competitive, has 280 horsepower. The Tacoma comes in at 278, the Ford Ranger at 270, and the Chevy Colorado and GMC Canyon at 308 with that V6 option. Torque-wise, it is on the low end. It's got 262 pound-feet of torque. The Tacoma's got 3 more. The Ford Ranger has 310, and the Chevy Colorado comes in at 275. Now, those are all great. We've taken a look at everything too. How about we go for a drive and see how this Honda Ridgeline really feels like? I think it's a fairly comfortable ride. I've driven it a few times, but we'll show you how it looks like on camera. Hopefully you get a good impression and maybe you'll like that. All right, we're just leaving Honda West right now on this late, whatever day it is. I don't keep track anymore. So the Ridgeline itself, you know, the visibility, let's start with that. The rear window, not the biggest, but overall it's big enough for us to get a decent view on the back. Having that backup camera definitely helps as well, along with the side view camera that whenever you're turning on the right signal or when you push in a button, you have access to your right side blind spot that displays on the center screen. Super comfortable. You have your different drive mode selectors for the Ridgeline. You can go normal, snow, mud, or the sand. Other than that, you are good to go. Let's go on to a little bit of a faster road here and see how this thing performs when you have to merge. Definitely picks up nicely. And when you need to merge on to any lane, you can definitely do that. Now, taking these little twisty roads, you know what? There's actually not too much body roll. less than I thought they would be. More. And once again, not that much body roll at all. And the noise from the outdoors is barely noticeable inside. The cabin itself is fairly decently insulated, I would say. It's pretty quiet. You can hear who you're talking to pretty loud and clear. Our favorite camera guy, Benjamin, sitting beside me. Benjamin, how do you feel sitting in this passenger seat?
Very, very comfortable, man. Very comfortable.
Yeah, he's barely holding onto this camera. He's about to fall asleep. Let's take these quieter community roads. I wish we had some areas where it was more bumpy to go on, but we don't have too many. Once again, pickup is fairly decent. It is that 3.5 liter V6. But yeah, overall, everything's just nice and tight. It's as you expect. Definitely doesn't feel as long as this thing is. It feels like you're driving something small. Other than that, if you guys have any requests for vehicles to do, please do comment in the comment section below and let us know. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel for more great content. We're in production for more vehicles. But if you guys have anything else to say, please do leave that comment in the comment section, and we will catch you next video. Thank you for watching. Have a good one. See you next video. Peace.